Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Listen to these words by Lawrence Peter. He really hit the nail on the head. Equal opportunity means everyone will have a fair chance at being incompetent. I like that. Hey, good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by one of our patriots. Come on, call in with the Pledge of Allegiance. Be proud. Here we go. And a good morning to you and yours. I'm Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. If you're getting ready for a road trip, yep, they've got all the tires, everything to help serve you. So stop in and see them today. Along with some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, let's go to the phone line and have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning.
My friend.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Doug, always good to hear from you. Call back in a few minutes because I've got some stories I know are going to raise your ire, my friend.
All right.
All right, thank you. Hey, appreciate that. Right now it's time for our weather forecast, and our weather brought to you by Roger and the crew at K&R Rental. 256 South, 600 west of Heyburn, right there on the Burley-Paul Highway, and they offer the best of tools and equipment to finish any job. I'm telling you what, they've got it all for you. All you need to do is call or stop in and find out more information about available tools for long or short-term rental. They've got them. K&R Rental, 256 South, 600 west of Heyburn. Number to call, 678-3122. Right now, here's the weather.
Another hazy, warm day here in the valley. Here's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch. Widespread haze today due to the area wildfires, but we are expecting sunny skies and a high of 90. Tonight, clear skies with a low of 56. This high-pressure system is going to stick around with us throughout the rest of the week and on into the weekend. Looking at more hazy conditions for tomorrow, sunny skies with a high of 94. Expecting an overnight low of 58 for Wednesday night. By Thursday, sunny and 97. Friday, it's definitely going to be warm. If you have a chance to stay indoors, I highly suggest you do so. Sunny skies, high of 100 for Friday. Saturday, expecting sunny skies and a high of 90 and a high of 90 for Sunday. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Wow, she said it. She said it. The triple digits, 100 on Friday. Whoa, it's going to get warm. Be cool, stay cool. Weather forecast brought to you by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 west of Heyburn. And the number to call them, and they're right there on the Burley-Paul Highway. You can't miss them. 678-3122. I want to remind you, too, that Thursday is sale day at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard. Merv, May, Cade, Rocky, Lance, Judy, the sale that works for you at 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. Number to call for cattle consignment information, sale information, 678-9411. Don't forget, Thursday is sale day at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard at 10:30 in the morning. You be there on Thursday. Want to also remind you about our friends that can take your dirty, old, rumply, crumply clothes and they can make them look magically brand spanking new. Oh my goodness, they're good at Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. And they can also do your washing too. You're running out of time during the day, are you? And they can wash, dry, fold, and iron all your clothes. All you got to do is just stop in and talk to them about it at Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. I am going to be talking about the left this morning. I am going to be talking about the Democrats, and I had a call yesterday that bothered me a little bit. A caller said, well, Zeb, you're always picking on the Democrats. Well, I'm sorry, folks, if it seems that way. Not sorry to the extent that I'm apologizing for doing it. But I'm sorry if you feel that they're being slighted or picked on. I'm an equal opportunity picker-oner, and I also go after the Republicans, too. But right now the left is going too far. And the Democratic Party is absolutely a major influence on what is taking place. We're going to talk about that in just a moment, so stay tuned. I want to remind you about many of the great merchants that are helping you to remember to come to next week the Cassia County Fair and Rodeo. Like Magic Valley Irrigation at 44 East, 500 South of Burley. Jeff and the crew, man, they've been offering irrigation system service and repair since way back in 1978. Don't forget, they can help you. They will help you. Magic Valley Irrigation, south of Burley. You better believe it. Pickett Equipment Company, 976 East Main in Burley. Most innovative edible bean harvesting equipment ever. These people are really good and have been for a long time. Give Brady Olson a call at Pickett Equipment today, 678-0855. Dot Foods, 1541 West 27th Street in Burley. What great people trying to make the community all come together for the benefit of everyone. What matters to you matters to them. Dot Foods, call them today for job openings. And also Perkins Bakery and Restaurant at 800 North Overland in Burley. Number to call 678-1304. They've got all kinds of easy access parking for trucks and trailers. And they say after the rodeo or whatever during the Cassia County Fair, stop in. Great people, great food. Perkins Bakery and Restaurant. And those are just a few great businesses that are inviting you to the Cassia County Fair and Rodeo next week. But it actually starts this weekend. Yep, on Saturday with the great big concert. And the gates are going to open up at 6:30. This concert is absolutely got some talent. First of all, the opening act is going to be an act that I've worked with in years past. Asleep at the Wheel. They are good, let me tell you. Very good. And then the main act is going to be Casey Donahue. Excellent entertainment for you. Get your tickets. Call the fair office for Saturday, this Saturday. Great big concert. Then on Sunday, the Monster Truck Show by Live a Little Productions, the pit party at 4:30, and then they're going to start at 6 p.m. All of this to kick off your Cassia County Fair and Rodeo. Wow, a lot of things going on. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. There has been way too much of this garbage, and that's what it is. Violence, property destruction, smashed windows, wrecked cars, chaos, death threats. And prove me wrong. I'm just going to lay this out here this morning. I'm not in a very good humor this morning about what's going on in this country. Prove me wrong. The Democratic Party is the major influence for this outrage that's going on. Two conservative leaders. They were Candace Owens. She is a black woman. And Charlie Kirk, a white man. They work for conservative think tanks. These two conservative leaders were very peacefully having breakfast at a cafe. A couple of Antifa members, vile thugs, recognized them at the restaurant, and literally a whistle was blown, and all of a sudden Antifa members showed up on the streets with their ugly little outfits and their black bandanas and face masks and everything else. And they surrounded Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk, and were making threatening statements, and they were condemning the police, and they were yelling white supremacy and white racism, and the police had to be called in to protect these two that were doing nothing but having breakfast. How vile and how filthy. And the hypocrisy of what they were yelling, folks, think about it. I just mentioned it. You probably picked up on it. Candace Owens is black. And they were yelling and shouting at Candace Owens, and Charlie Kirk is white. They were yelling and shouting at these two, yelling about how they were white supremacists and they were racist and everything. This is absolutely obscene. And you know who I hang this on? I put this right there on the coat rack of Maxine Waters. 3 months ago, she made statements that said, when you see these people at a restaurant or wherever, go ahead and create a scene and make them feel unwelcome. She's the one of many, that has started this absolute chaos in America. Maxine Waters is a detestable woman that absolutely has no business in politics, has absolutely no business representing people. She should be thrown out of her office. Someone is going to get hurt severely. Someone is going to die because the left has carried this hatred against Donald Trump over the edge. And it just blows my mind this morning to think that there are people right here in the Magic Valley that are ready and willing to vote for this kind of trash to be the ruling party again. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir. Did you notice that this was a Monday morning and all those Antifa people left their jobs?
Yep.
So they could go out there and protest.
Well, wait a minute. Let's back up a little bit in fairness to what you just said, though. Do you have to take that?
No.
Oh, okay. Let's back up just for a second in fairness to what you said a moment ago. They left their jobs. First of all, I believe honestly that a lot of these people are paid protesters, so I'm not sure they left their jobs.
Well, I agree there. I was trying to be a little facetious. How they can show up at a moment's notice and do this and throw eggs and water on somebody and think this is right.
Well, Doug, put it this way. At the next lunch bunch, let's go around the tables and find out who maybe is there that we don't agree with politically. And then let's go to the kitchen and demand that we get eggs or water or whatever, and we throw them on those people. We would be the lowest pond scum around and absolutely should be thrown out of the restaurant and never allowed to be in there again. But these people are absolutely not punished.
They're not. And they get away with it, and I agree with you 100% that Maxine Waters has... all this is on her hands. Anybody that gets hurt by people doing this is on Maxine Waters' hands.
How can anybody, honestly, that has any sense of decency or humanity, and I really mean this morning, I am upset because, number one, the Democrats don't have any guts. They won't call in and arbitrate with me on the air. They'll always backsnipe me after the program's over. But how can anybody with any human decency at all act in this kind of fashion?
Well, you look at history, and exactly the same thing happened when the Nazis were taking over Germany.
That's right.
I mean, they are calling us, the conservatives, Nazis, when you look up and how the Nazis acted in Germany they are the one that are being the Nazis trying to silence.
Yeah, and here's something else, too, Doug. This was brought up to me, and it really infuriated me when I heard this. A person said to me, well, it's not all the Democrats that are doing this. And I said, okay, fine. If it's not all the Democrats, and you are a Democrat, then stand up and denounce these idiots that are creating this problem.
Exactly. They do not. They won't stand up because they know it's playing into their playbook, and that's exactly what they want them to do.
I have absolutely never been more mad than I am about this situation. People are going to get hurt. People are possibly even going to die because of this idiocy, and you can't just sit back and say, oh, well, it's not all of us, it's just a fringe. No, well, then stand up and denounce it and do something to stop it.
Exactly. Like in a court of law, if you know somebody's going to commit a crime and you allow it to happen, you are an accomplice.
Bingo.
And so they are an accomplice to all this that's going on.
I just think that there's no reason for this. Yesterday, we had Dr. Alvin Schmidt on the program talking about the absolute decline of morality and common sense and decency in this country. This is entirely indicative of what we're talking about.
Exactly. That's exactly it, and that's the way they want to take this country. So come November, everybody out there, just think about it. If you want a country that's in chaos, that doesn't believe in law and order, or I'll pick this law and I'll obey it, but, oh, this one I don't like it, so I'm not going to obey it,
yeah,
then vote Democrat.
Amen. I've got another call waiting, Doug. I dang sure appreciate your calling. Dang sure. And you have a wonderful day. Thank you, buddy.
Hey, everybody, let's do what we can for our senior centers. Let's support them. Let's go eat lunch there. Like today over at Rupert Senior Center, they're having baked spaghetti with, if I can borrow a term, yummy dessert.
Yeah, I think Joe will be calling. Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
All right. I got to pay some bills, caller. I promise I will be right with you. Don't go away, please. I got to tell everybody about our dear friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric. Oh, they are the best at what they do. And I mean that. They've been in business almost 6 decades, 60 years, serving you with the best of your heating, cooling, and electrical needs. All you need to do is either stop in or give them a call. They're located at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. The number, 678-0459. They're open 7:30 to 5 Monday through Friday, and I urge you to work with the best. They've got great people working there, knowledge on all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs. Ramsey Heating and Electric in Burley. You get a hold of them today. Also, quickly, I want to tell you about Denny's Restaurant. Oh, good. 611 North Overland in Burley, and the other location at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. It is America's Diner, Denny's Restaurant. Super people serving you, and when they hand you the menu, wow, you're going to go wow, double wow. All the great food choices, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It is phenomenal. They're the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch, and we're proud to go there. Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley, America's Diner. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
You know, with the Democratic Party trying to bring this country down, the big picture people aren't seeing is if the United States goes down, the rest of the world is going to go with it. And a lot of people don't realize how much power this country has. And if we lose it, they will lose big time. And all these politicians that are causing the problem that we have, that you were just talking about, going to come home to roost.
I do not understand, Tony. I'm sorry, maybe I'm a little naive, but I do not understand how anyone that calls themselves an American citizen doesn't want the best for our country and all of its people. But I'm seeing such a split right now of hate and animosity because President Trump is the president. They don't care about the country. They don't care about success. All they want to do is hate Trump and cause anarchy, and this absolutely has got to stop.
A lot of this younger generation is mesmerized by big mouths like Maxine Waters and this new gal that we've got coming up with Bernie Sanders and they're not thinking ahead. They don't realize how badly this is going to affect the younger generation.
Oh, I totally agree.
This country will be so easy to take over if we're not careful.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, of course, it's not going to affect people my age. I'm pushing 90. So the younger generation is going to take a big hit if they don't open their mind and just realize what's being done to them by big mouths like Maxine Waters.
The whole thing boils down to this, Tony, and I think it's a fair assumption. The younger generation has no appreciation, no respect, and quite frankly, no knowledge of what's been handed to them.
Oh, absolutely. You know, growing up during the Depression, I really appreciate what I have today. Because growing up in those days, I remember what my parents and I didn't have.
Absolutely. Tony, you and Mary are dear, dear friends, and we got to get together and have another breakfast soon, so God bless you, man. Thank you.
Anytime.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
I'll be in touch.
All right. Caller number 2, hold on. I'll be right there. Got to pay some bills, and I want to tell everybody about Dino Septic Service. Oh, they do the job you don't want to do. I'm telling you, they've recently expanded their business. They've got bigger. They've enlarged so they can better serve you with all the septic tanks that need to be pumped and the septic tanks and drain fields that need to be installed, backhoe service, water and sewer lines installed, mainline irrigation installation and repair. What are you waiting for? Oh, the numbers? I'll give them to you. 436-6526 or in Burley 678-1638. Fast, fair, friendly service, knowledgeable people, Dino Septic Service with the big truck that says, smells cargo on the way. Really good, folks. Oh, and by the way, I got a hold of my word here because in a couple of weeks I'm going to start going back over to Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Nick Greenwell and all the physical therapists, they've helped me before. They're going to help me again to get back to being me. That's right. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation can help you. They want to help you. They're located at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. All the exercises and the best of the only hydrotherapy pool of its kind in this area. Oh, it is great. 678-1191, the number to call, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zed.
Yes, sir.
You know, there's light at the end of the tunnel, but the only problem is it's a train coming, and that's what these Democrats are hoping for, is to have us just run right over the top of us. But, you know, I think there's a glimmer there that I would like to tell people that I truly believe that in the end, the people will come out and the Republicans will prevail. Just like in Ohio, they had written that off, Ohio and Pennsylvania, they'd written all those off for Trump. He had not got a chance, but he won, and he won substantially. And I think that's what's going to happen this time. I think a lot of these people, instead of getting out there and trying to fight against these darn thugs and everything, they're just quietly sitting by, waiting for the election, and then they'll cast their ballot, and that's where we know where we'll stand.
I don't know, Keith. I'm taken aback by the violence and the death threats and the absolute chaos that's going on in this country. And I just have no use, and I underline those words, no use for these Antifa thugs or anyone else, including Representative Maxine Waters. She is a despicable lowlife that should not be in politics. She should not have anything to do with politics or leading this country. I find her to be totally repulsive.
I do too, and this Al Sharpton, oh my gosh, what a piece of crap he is. You know, they're just these people that have so much hate in their heart. They've even lost track of what is real.
We've got to get back to an arbitration in this country of the two parties that doesn't go beyond arbitration and handshakes and possible agreements. But this violence and this destruction of private property and calling people and issuing death threats, etc., this has got to stop. And whoever is behind it, and quite frankly, a lot of it are the Democratic Party and other wealthy people that want to see insurrection in this country, damn them. I mean that. Damn them for the cause that they're perpetrating and furthering.
Well, the most interesting race right now that I can think of is this one in Ohio with this Troy Balderson and his opponent.
Yeah.
This is a special election, and this is really important to both sides.
It is very important, and we should know, quite frankly, early in the evening tonight how that race is going to pan out. A lot of people are saying that is going to be a light at the end of the tunnel, to use some of your phraseology, and we'll see what happens. Keith, God bless you for your call as always. Thank you very much.
You bet.
All right, sir. Thank you. I want to remind everybody, too, about Berry Equipment and Rental. Oh, my goodness sakes. They've got all the equipment you need. I mean, from the big Doosan loaders, oh, my goodness, the great big tough equipment. And all the Bobcats, too. They've got all the shapes and sizes of the Bobcat excavators, new and used excavators for sale or rent. Want to buy? Fine. You want to rent? Fine. They've got everything right there at Berry Equipment and Rental, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley with Juan, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls with Eli, and the Nampa location. I urge you to work with the best and nicest of people, Berry Equipment and Rental, Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa. Really good folks. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Here's another face on the left, Rosie O'Donnell, a fat face. Rosie O'Donnell is not a very nice person, not at all. And she is not the brightest star in the sky or the brightest light in the fixture. She's proven that time and time again. Well, she said just recently that all of the people that support Donald Trump are or have been influenced or bought off by Russians. What? I don't remember getting a paycheck from Vladimir. This is so ridiculous, folks. I mean, the absolute mindless drivel of people on the left. That we've been bought off or influenced by the Russians. And then Rosie continues to flap her flat and fat jaws and saying that Trump pays for all the people that show up at his rallies. Now, don't you think, folks, if you've got 6,000 to 7,000 people at this rally and maybe close to 10,000 at another rally, or maybe whatever the number is of all the thousands that are at these rallies, that word would leak out or a check would show up or money would be prevalent so that somebody could talk about it. Oh, I was paid by the Trump administration to show up here at this. This is so insane. And the accusations, idiotic as they are, made by the left in this, and people listen to her. Rosie O'Donnell is nothing more than a large mouthpiece, very large mouthpiece. And some of the charges that are made by her and others are so totally ridiculous, but there are percentages of people and groups of people that buy into this lunacy. That's the problem. That's the problem. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Tonight starts the first performance of the Jerome County Fair and Pro Rodeo. Tonight, yep, they're going to be starting things off, and they want you to be there. Don't forget, Jerome County Fair and Pro Rodeo. They're going to be bringing in some of the top pro cowboys from all around the world, so don't miss it. And it goes through Thursday night. And then on Friday night, on Friday, August 10th at 7 p.m., they've got that great big country music artist, Jessie G, in concert. Whoa! I mean, she can sing. It's going to be great. Jerome County Fair, 7th through the 11th, all kinds of fun at the Jerome County Fair. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Deb.
Yes.
I have a thought about Roseanne. Did her new series stumble?
Well, no, wait a minute, Chris. Chris, just a minute. Are you talking about Rosie O'Donnell, or are you talking about Roseanne Barr?
Well, they're kind of both the same thing, but Roseanne, yeah.
Okay.
She tried to get her deal going, her show that went on for quite a while, and everybody loved her. But when she turned political back in that day, she lost it. And then, she tried to restart her show not that long ago. And they only let her have 1 or 2 shows, and it's off. So Roseanne Barr both of them are not doing themselves a favor. I think Americans are smarter than they are.
Yeah, but, and I'm gonna put a caveat there, Chris. Mm-hmm. I've looked at what Roseanne Barr said, and I've studied what she said. I'm not advocating what she said or tweeted was correct in any way, shape, or form. But compared to what the left is doing with the hatred, the violence, and the death threats, and the chaos, what Roseanne Barr did was minimal compared to what the left is doing on a daily basis.
And I'm afraid that, the two sides are going to have a clash one of these days.
Oh, I think you're 100% right.
And sadly, it's going to set our country back because we've got so much going for us. Why do we want to destroy it? But some people just don't care what they destroy in their past as long as they get their way.
And what you just said is a great way to basically sum up the conversation. They don't care about who or what they destroy or what good they put asunder as long as they get their way. That is an excellent way to phrase it.
Mm-hmm. And what will they do with it if they get their way?
I don't know.
Then they'll bury themselves because those kind of attitudes or thoughts put you down. They don't usually lift you up.
Well, I could not agree more with the way you phrased that. That was excellent. Chris, thank you as always for calling in. You're always welcome.
Have a good day.
Thank you very much. Bye. And I want to also say this, that when you talk about the left and how absolutely, I'll call it what it is, stupid they act and dumb as they talk, one of the Democratic nominees for Arizona's governorship said that he wants no walls, no border security. Everybody come on in. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. Who's going to pay the bills? Who is going to pay the bills? Why should I pay my taxes? Why should you pay your taxes? Why should anybody pay taxes? Why should anybody support the government? Why should anybody stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance? Why should anybody stand up for the national anthem? Why should anybody have a military? Why should anybody do anything for this country if it's going to be helter-skelter, no borders, everybody all come on in? Who's going to pay the bills? Who is going to pay the bills? And we, the citizen taxpayers, we keep paying, and we keep suffering because of the inequity. I hope that this Democratic clown that's running for governor goes back to the circus. This guy is absolutely repulsive. His name is David Garcia. And I certainly hope that he doesn't even get 1% of the vote. 1% of the vote in California. It's stupid twits like him that are creating more of the problem. Calls welcome 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. I'd like to hear what your opinion is. Don't weaken on me, folks. Come on, give me a jingle right now. It doesn't end. The NRBs, the not real brights, continue to act in a dysfunctional manner. When I heard this story, I absolutely stopped dead in my tracks, turned around, went over and sat down again in my brand new recliner and took notes on this because I thought, how can they be this stupid? There has been a movement in this country to purge and cleanse and rewrite history and take down names of officials that have had their names on schools and monuments for years. Oh, we can't have a monument to that guy. Well, he did this, that, and the other. Take it down. Oh, we can't have a school named after this guy. Why? We take it down. Now, these same nincompoops are going after Austin, Texas. Let that sink in. These same people that can't tell the time of day are going after the city of Austin, Texas, because it was named after Stephen F. Austin. And at the time, 180 years ago, Stephen F. Austin had some slaves working for him. Now, let me stop right there. That was 180 plus years ago, an accepted practice of that time. Are we so puritanical today that we can look back and condemn and damn people from another time, another era, and say, oh, they were so wrong, we've got to purge them. Well, we just can't have them in history books. We can't have cities named after them. Why, this is terrible. That was 180 years ago. And now these so-called do-gooders that want to rewrite history or cover it up are aiming at Austin, Texas to change the name. And like I heard another commentator say early this morning at about 4 o'clock, what's next? Jackson, Mississippi? Or Madison, Wisconsin? Or maybe even Washington, D.C.? What's next? Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, sir. I was thinking about what the left is trying to do, erasing all of the history, so we're going to repeat it again. What happens when you go and do a family genealogy? You look up your ancestors. Okay, so you got 1 or 2 ancestors back there that's got, little shady dealings. Oh, we're not related to them. Let's cancel them out of our family. I mean, it is ridiculous what they're trying to do.
Well, you brought up an excellent point, and I think that's worth discussing because I dare say that you and I and Deanne's side of her family, etc., all of us have maybe got some crusty characters and some shady dealings in our family tree. But when you start shaking the tree and picking up the bad apples and throwing them out of the way so nobody can talk about them, you're cleansing a part of your family heritage that absolutely is not right.
Exactly. Exactly. That's my point. You cannot, this day, be held accountable for what they did 180 years ago. If you wanted to be held accountable for what they did 180 years ago, you should have been around 180 years ago and standing up against it.
Well, the lunacy of saying something of almost 200 years ago, oh my goodness, Stephen F. Austin, oh, he was basically one of the founders of getting Texas started as a state, but we can't have his name on Austin, Texas, because at that time, 200 years ago, he had some slaves working for him. This is the stupidity of the left. You can't rewrite what took place. You can learn from it, not to make the same mistakes, but you can't rewrite it.
Exactly. Yeah, they just don't know. They can't understand how you learn from history, I guess, or they want to erase history so they can suck the future generations into making the same mistake.
I am honestly convinced that people that are of this ilk are absolutely people that should be led by the arm to a soft chair, given a glass of water and some aspirin, and told not to do anything until the doctor gets there the next day.
Yes. Or put them in a hug-me jacket and throw them in a rubber room. It is a mental disorder when people try to do stuff like this. I'm a firm believer in that.
I am convinced that God must love dumb people because he made a lot of them.
But of course, if you're dumb, you don't realize you're dumb.
And they don't. I gotta run.
Like, what was that saying? If you don't have any dumb people in your family, you might be him.
You know, there are a lot of branches on my family tree, and quite frankly, I wouldn't want to put on television or radio some of my relatives. Some were not basically your community leaders, if you know my drift.
Well, in my ancestry, I've got some guys way back in Tennessee that were doing during Prohibition. We're brewing some good clear water.
Oh, so are you telling me that you and I are related? I gotta run. Thanks, Doug.
Anyway, God bless.
All right, buddy. Hey, caller, I'll be right with you. I promise. I got to get the weather in here. Oh, yours truly is flapping his jaws, and I got to get this on. It's sponsored by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, right behind the Minidoka Hospital, across from the emergency room. The number to call, 312-0957. That number again, 312-0957. They are dedicated to serving people with hearing loss of all ages and their families. Make an appointment today, 312-0957. Here's Gina with the weather.
Another hazy, warm day here in the valley. Here's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch. Widespread haze today due to the area wildfires, but we are expecting sunny skies and a high of 90. Tonight, clear skies with a low of 56. This high-pressure system is going to stick around with us throughout the rest of the week and on into the weekend. Looking at more hazy conditions for tomorrow, sunny skies with a high of 94. Expecting an overnight low of 58 for Wednesday night. By Thursday, sunny and 97. Friday, it's definitely going to be warm. If you have a chance to stay indoors, I highly suggest you do so. Sunny skies, high of 100 for Friday. Saturday, expecting sunny skies and a high of 90 and a high of 90 for Sunday. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina. At Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, Dr. Pickup and Dr. Mitchell really pride themselves on caring for each individual with customized and personal treatment plans for your hearing health. Call them today at 312-0957. Caller, you've been patient. Thank you. God bless.
This is a good news guy from Senior Center on South Overland Avenue.
The Yummy Man.
You got that right. Today we're having roast pork and mixed vegetables and bread pudding for dessert.
That'll be yummy.
Yes. So tomorrow is birthday anniversary dinner with turkey dressing, mashed potatoes and gravy, green beans, and cranberry sauce and cake.
And, you know, Joe, we want to mention, too, that if people want to have a dinner for takeout, what do they do? Who do they call?
They just call the Senior Center at 878-8645, and it'll be ready when you come to pick it up.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, Joe, you are the world's greatest cheerleader for the Senior Junction. God bless you, man. He's the yummy man.
And we need volunteer help to help put up the Meals on Wheels in the morning for 2-3 hours. If there's anybody out there that likes to help, we'd sure appreciate it.
All right, Joe. Thank you so much for your call, my friend. God bless.
Have a good day.
All right, sir. Thank you. You know, just about the time that you think you've heard it all in how the nanny state is growing like cancer, I got a story in a minute you're not going to believe. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes.
Das vidanya, but I didn't get my paycheck.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sure it's in the mail. We'll make sure the stamp was put on.
Oh, you're talking about those, let's change the names of the schools and all that stuff. Maybe people needed a little bit of history because according to the records, the first black slave owner was a black
Yep.
in the United States.
Yep.
One of the largest slave owners in the state of South Carolina in 1860 was a black man.
Mm-hmm.
American Indians owned thousands of black slaves, so maybe the Indians better start paying retribution out of their oil mail or oil money. And in 1830, there were approximately 3,775 free black people who owned 12,740 black slaves.
Yeah, but wait a minute, my dear lady. Why, you're missing the point. Well, you're referring to historical fact, and that's what the left wants to change, erase, and whitewash. They want to get rid of those historical facts.
Exactly, and if you don't learn from history, you have a tendency to repeat it.
You know, really, I honestly, I think this is going to happen. I think that these loons that absolutely should be locked up are going to go after Madison, Wisconsin, Jackson, Mississippi, Washington, D.C. They have nothing better to do. They're probably public-funded people or groups that our taxpayer money is going to. This is lunacy, and it's got to stop.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's to the point you won't be able to call a cougar or cat or chicken or rabbit or horse, and you won't be able, because that's offensive to animals.
Yeah.
And you won't be able to call it by a person's name because they'll figure out a reason why. And you won't be able to say chiefs or powwow or anything like, because that's offensive to somebody or something,
Well, I can promise you this, and I think you know me well enough. I'm not going to stop doing what I do or what I say. I do not respect these people. I do not respect anything they stand for. I will not kowtow to them.
Carry on, young man, carry on.
Oh, I love that young man part. Say that again, quickly.
Carry on, young man.
I love that young man. Thank you, even though it's a little bit far-fetched. Thank you so much. God bless you. Have a good day.
God bless.
Thank you. I love to hear that young man. I wished it was true. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations as you get ready for your road trip. You got all this planned. Yep, you're going to take off in a day or so, and you're going to go on a road trip before the kids who have to go back to school. You've got everything packed. You've got all the toothbrushes, and you've got all the tennis shoes, and oh, wait a minute, you forgot to have your car tires checked. Well, you better get into your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers right away and make sure that you're road trip ready. They'll check the tires. If you need new ones, they've got a lot of them on sale right now. Or the best in brake service and front end alignment, shocks and struts and batteries. All of this and more with the best of service with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. The best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Caller, I got a minute. Real fast. Go.
Good morning, Zeb. If we don't have everything else to worry about, and there's a guy that's probably at far right, whatever he is. He's a neo-Nazi, but he's calling people up in Sandpoint, telling them he's going to be there soon to start his new regional capital to get rid of Jews in the United States.
Oh, brother.
We need him, too.
Yeah, we need him like we need another hole in the windshield or something. I mean, man, I'm so sick of all the hate going on. And you know, really, Linda, quickly, I'll say this. I probably act like I'm promoting hate against them, but we've got to get back to common sense and decency, and I don't know how else to do it.
I know. We've got all these people that my history teacher in college used to call true believers. Yeah. They get a cause and they just follow it. They just need a cause, and then they get it and they follow it.
I got to run, but thank you so much. I appreciate it. Caller, I'll give you 15 seconds. That's all I've got.
Okay, I think we should take lists of all these rioters because 150 years from now, I want my family and people whose property was damaged to be able to go back to their families and get money.
Oh, you want restitution so you can become a multi-millionaire?
Sure, why not?
Okay. Hey, God bless. Have a good day. I'm running late. Thank you. We're going to send it back over to Wheels at our main studios. We'll be back in 7. Oh, there's a never-ending story. Ay. Good morning, everybody. Zeb at the Ranch. And, of course, I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, don't forget some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, let's have this good word for Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal.
Western Waste Services, it's true, they are always at your disposal. You need to clean out the basement or the garage or whatever. Well, they've got dumpsters in various sizes. You just call and tell them what you need, and they'll bring it by, drop it off, fill it up, and then call them and they'll come and get it. Absolutely. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call them today at 734-6969. Want to also encourage you to remember some really, really nice people, and I'm talking about Hanson Mortuary. Joel Heward, the manager, and of course his family and the staff, serving you and your family in a time of need. When there's the passing of a loved one, they are there to serve you. Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. The number to call, 436-5636. Always serving you and your family with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Call them today, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary. And Joel Heward also serving you at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. We're about ready to have our guest on the air, and I quickly need to get this in here before we do. I don't want to keep him waiting, but the Cache County Fair is coming up this next week, and some of the great businesses that invite you to the county fair, Cache County Fair, include AMI, 719 Overland in Burley. Look for the big 28-foot wrench over the door, and you'll go nuts over their bolts. Absolutely. AMI in Burley. And Butte Irrigation, 116 South, 600 West, Highway 27 in Paul. Don't forget, they've also got another location on Kimberly Road, north of Kimberly by Red Cap Corner. The best of all your irrigation needs, they will get you wet. Butte Irrigation. And Mountain Transmissions, 1146 East Main in Burley. Rick and the crew, absolutely the best with free towing, free diagnostic, free estimates, greatest technology available to keep you running. Mountain Transmissions. Thank you very, very much. Right now, I'm sorry to hold him up for so long. We say a good morning to a senior attorney with the Pacific Legal Foundation, Mark Miller. How are you?
Thanks for having me on, Zeb. Of course, we got to pay the bills. No problem in a free market waiting to have some bills get paid.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. You know, I have been a long time, and I'm very blunt about this, Mark, hater of the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, or the Endangered Species Act, etc. The way things are done in such a thuggery, kind of heavy-handed way, I've never thought much of them. What's going on with the Department of Interior right now proposing endangered species reforms?
Well, I think you make a good point, Zeb, about the heavy-handed nature of the way the Endangered Species Act is sometimes enforced, and so that the Trump administration has recognized that maybe that what you're reacting to as an American needs to be addressed. And really, the Endangered Species Act, when it was written in 1973 and then as amended, was designed to protect, endangered species and threatened species, and we can all agree that's a good idea. But the statute and the way it's enforced really hasn't achieved that. There's been about almost 1,700 species listed over the years, and only 39 have actually been recovered. So you're talking like less than 3% of all the species that were listed to be protected under the Endangered Species actually recovered enough to no longer be endangered and threatened. So the Trump administration has said, let's try and revise some provisions of the Endangered Species Act to actually achieve what Congress would have intended when it wrote the Endangered Species Act back in '73 when Nixon was president, and let's try and save species. And we think that's a great idea at Pacific Legal Foundation. In fact, we proposed some of the changes that they are proposing to implement, and it also affects some of the cases we have, including a case we have at the Supreme Court scheduled for argument on October 1st about the dusky gopher frog.
The what?
The dusky gopher frog is a little frog in Louisiana. He's not in Louisiana, actually. He's in Mississippi. He was called the Mississippi gopher frog. But under the old rules of the Endangered Species Act, or under the way the law is being implemented, the Fish and Wildlife Service decided that they would declare critical habitat for the endangered species, this Mississippi gopher frog, but they would declare it as critical habitat in Louisiana, and over 50 miles away from where the frog actually currently exists. And it is endangered. No one doubts that. No one argues with that, and everyone wants to see it thrive. But this land, this 1,500 or so acres in Louisiana that the government has declared critical habitat for the frog, it can't sustain the frog. The frog hasn't been there in over 5 decades. And if you were to put the frog there now, it would not survive, because the elements it needs to survive, the kind of trees it needs, the upland living space, and the ephemeral ponds, they're not all there. And so ultimately this frog, which they changed the name of the frog from the Mississippi gopher frog to the dusky gopher frog to, throw us off the trail that this frog is in Mississippi and not in Louisiana. And our client owns 1,500 acres or so. I think it's 1,547 acres is what's entirely at stake here. Our client owns most of that. His property, Edward Poitevin, and the family businesses related to him, they own this land, and they won't be able to use the land without federal government permission, because the government would say it affects the frog, even though the frog doesn't live there and can't live there and would die if you put it there.
Wait a minute. So, Mark, wait a minute. Yeah. Stop. You're speeding downhill with your foot on the accelerator. You're scaring me. I got to follow this. I'm an old man. What you're telling me is, so far, so I can keep myself up to speed, is that the dusky gopher frog does not live in Louisiana. He packed up and took his family, Aunt Martha and Uncle Fred and all the other frogs, and moved to Mississippi. But you have a client in Louisiana that is told they can't use certain property because the dusky gopher frog used to live there. He doesn't live there anymore. So these people can't use their own property for the sake of a doggone frog that took residence up in Mississippi?
Well, they would have to do anything different than what they're doing now. They would have to get permission. They have to get a permit, which is really basically just permission from the federal government. And the federal government would have to say, yes, this is not going to affect that endangered species, the frog. And that's really what our client's concern is, that, look, it doesn't help the frog. It does not conserve the frog under the terms of the Endangered Species Act to declare his property critical habitat. In fact, that's one of the changes. You're really going to love this, Zeb. One of the changes that the federal government is proposing for the Endangered Species Act is to say that someone in our client's situation wouldn't see his private property declared critical habitat if there was not a reasonable likelihood that the area would contribute to the conservation of the species. And that's what we have here. There is no likelihood that the area would contribute to saving the frog because the frog can't live there unless you make dramatic change to the property. So even though the federal government, to its credit, is proposing, the Trump administration, to change the Endangered Species Act so that in the future our client's property wouldn't be declared critical habitat for a species that can't live there. As of now, the federal government is taking this position before the U.S. Supreme Court that even though they want to change the rules going forward, it's okay that under the old Endangered Species Act, as it's currently written, you can declare our client's property, critical habitat for a frog that can't live there, won't live there, and would die if you were to put it there. It would not be conserved in order to, no longer be endangered.
If people have any questions regarding the sanity of government and leadership in government, all they'd have to do is look up the story of the dusky gopher frog that decided to leave Louisiana and go to Mississippi, but the people in Louisiana are still being challenged and not allowed to use their property.
Well, what I think, Zeb, is what we're going to see at the U.S. Supreme Court on October 1st is that there are nine justices who are going to say, we do have some sanity here, and at the Supreme Court, and we do not think this is what Congress ever would have intended. It's an abuse of the power that Congress gave the Fish and Wildlife Service to declare property that has nothing to do with a species critical habitat, such that you can't use your property unless the federal government gives you a permit to do so.
Yeah, Mark, what about these people in Louisiana, your clients? I mean, the hardship that they're going through, the inability to use or utilize their property, the amount of money that they've lost on perhaps revenue they could have gained from that property. How are they ever going to overcome this?
Well, number one, that's why they have Pacific Legal, and as you know, Zeb, to your listeners know, Pacific Legal, we represent all our clients for free. You'd be talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in attorney's fees if they had a private lawyer, and there's a good chance they wouldn't have been able to pursue it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. In fact, there's another property owner at issue here, the Weyerhaeuser Company, the paper company, and in fact, they lease most of our clients' property right now, and they own a small piece of the property that's addressed in this rule, this critical habitat designation. And so they're there with us too. And, they are paying their attorneys quite a bit of money to fight this, along with Pacific Legal, representing the private landowners, the family landowners, we like to call them.
Yeah. Now, the land itself, though, Mark, I need to ask this. Is the land completely dormant and full of vegetation and absolutely not being used right now for any purpose?
I should clarify, it is being used right now, and it's under a 90-year lease between the paper company, Weyerhaeuser, and our clients who have owned this really since Reconstruction, since the late 1800s. And they intend, when that lease expires, to develop it. It's not quite the suburbs of New Orleans, but ultimately it will become that, as as suburbia spreads.
Right.
And there's already development plans in place with the county, with their, in Louisiana we call it the parish, the French term, but it's the county, and there's already development plans under discussions with the local government, with the state government, but the federal government, if it has its way, would never let you see anything else happen to this property. Instead, they would want to try and get the property owner to, quote-unquote, agree to change the property, to take what is now a closed forest canopy and make it an open forest canopy and put in some uplands and make sure you have the ephemeral ponds. But we're talking to the tunes of dramatic financial and physical changes to the property that the federal government just expects the landowner to make so that this frog could someday perhaps be moved there. If you put it there now, the frog could never survive.
Oh, my goodness.
Why the federal government thinks it can do that is sort of beyond me. If the federal government really cares about the frog, you think they would offer to buy the land from our clients and from Weyerhaeuser and then change the property itself for the frog. But that's really not what it's about for the federal government. I think it's about control, and it's about trying to read the law as expansively as possible to get at what you said when we first started this call, which is, an overreaching interpretation of the law. The law might have good intentions behind it. Congress may have meant well, but the way it's being enforced doesn't make sense and doesn't match those intentions.
Mark, let me, if I may, go all the way back to the purchase of this property. I'm sorry, you said 1,500 acres approximately, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's go back to the purchase of this property. From whom did the property, who was it obtained from, and what about the actual sale and the ramifications of the sale? Were there any restrictions put on the property at that time? I mean, what did the owners get and receive when they bought this property?
So our clients own thousands of acres of woodland in Louisiana. This is sort of northeast of New Orleans.
Right.
And if your listeners know New Orleans at all, it's on the other side of Lake Pontchartrain,
yep,
to the northeast of Lake Pontchartrain. So our clients have owned, it's been in their family since the late 1800s. After the Depression, and they used it as for the timber on the land. It's all woodland. After the Depression, their mill, the timber mill, went under, and at one point they thought they might have to let the property go and sell it. But in the 50s, the predecessor to the big paper company, Weyerhaeuser, up your way, they entered a long lease, the predecessor Weyerhaeuser, with the family, a 90-year lease. It does not expire until 2043. And so Weyerhaeuser now has assumed the lease. They're the lessee, and our clients, Edward Poitevin and his family, the Poitevin family and different family businesses related to the family, they own it. And so they lease it to Weyerhaeuser. There's a small piece that Weyerhaeuser did actually buy, but of the 1,547 acres, most of it, the vast majority of it, is our client.
Okay, but
so when they bought it in the 1800s, there was no restrictions on it, because this was the United States as you and I would have understood it to be. But in the ensuing, say, 100 years plus, the government has put more and more restrictions on our ability to use our own land.
Yeah.
And that's really what you have here.
Okay, but that's exactly what I was working to have you say, is that way back in the 1800s, there was a private treaty, a contract of I buy, you sell this land, I own it. And then from that consummation of that contract, I can do what I want on this property. I will use it for logging or whatever other purpose. Where did the government ever obtain the power to come in and make a demand on private citizens to basically counteract a contract and say, everything's null and void, Big Brother Uncle Sam is going to take control?
Well, the government got its power. In theory, the government gets the power from us, the people. And you can go back to about 100 years ago, not quite, when the U.S. Supreme Court started okaying regulatory schemes along the lines, very early schemes along the lines of where we are now. And it's a good example where the people said, yes, it's okay to regulate property a little bit so that we can have some degree of understanding of what we want, how we want property to be used. But over the years, that has gotten more and more tortured, and you've seen more and more overreach from the government, whether it be the local government, the state government, or the federal government. In this case, it's the federal government, but oftentimes it's the local government. I've got cases at the U.S. Supreme Court right now where the local government, or Pacific Legal has got cases where the local government is not allowing people to use their property. And really, it was the 1920s, effectively, when the Supreme Court okayed the idea that the government could regulate your property as long as it didn't go too far, is what Oliver Wendell Holmes said, and it takes a shortcut and tries to actually take your property, not allowing you to use it. And so, really, the fight for the last 100 years, and Pacific Legal picked it up about 45 years ago, has been about how far can the government go before it's actually infringing your private property rights. And that's what Pacific Legal fights about. It's when the government takes our private property rights and doesn't compensate us for it.
Wouldn't we all be better off, Mark, and you're an expert on this subject, but wouldn't we all, across the board, from Washington all the way to Maine, wouldn't we be better off if we worked with the landowners, and if there were endangered species in that respective area, worked with the landowners to create perhaps habitat and work together instead of a condemnation of the private property owner?
That's exactly right. One of the points we've made in terms of supporting some of the changes that the administration has proposed for the Endangered Species Act is that millions of dollars and years, decades of time are being wasted litigating the fight between private property owners and the federal government in terms of the federal government trying to force landowners to deal with the restrictions that, as I said at the beginning of the call, haven't really even helped species for the most part. Most of them, the vast majority of species that have been listed have not been delisted. So instead, why don't we work together and encourage organizations like, say, the Nature Conservancy, which tries to work to recover species. In fact, with this dusky gopher frog, the Nature Conservancy has a frog rearing lab, if you can imagine, where they're raising these amphibians in the correct habitat in Mississippi, not Louisiana, in Mississippi, where the frog lives. And they've raised thousands of these dusky gopher frogs, and it costs a lot of money and time. But if we really care about the species, as Congress said it did in 1973 when it passed the Endangered Species Act, isn't that a better way than trying to force people who don't want to help and, frankly, have nothing to do with the species? They can't help. And, rather, let's work with organizations that want to help the frog, want to help any endangered species, encourage that, and then get private property owners who want to help. For example, in our case at the Supreme Court, some private property owners filed a brief that said we support the idea of having private property declared critical habitat for a species. Well, that may be well and good, but only if that property is going to help the species to recover. And that's the problem in our case. Under the old rules, this land would not help the frog to recover. So why don't we encourage conciliation and working together, and not the federal government overreaching and forcing people against their will to deal with restrictions that prevent them from ever using their property.
Yeah, and when are we ever going to get back to a little bit of common sense, whether it's through the courts or through these so-called environmental groups, of maybe, just maybe, human beings, their livelihoods, and their families first?
Let's hope we see in our lifetime, Zeb.
I agree. Mark, I tell you what, every time I have you on the program, you're very thought-stimulating, and I tell you this story right here, I'm so glad that you and Pacific Legal Foundation are involved. Thank you for coming on the program this morning, and we wish you the best, and please come back soon.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks for having me on. Always good talking to you.
Thank you. Mark Miller, a great guy with the Pacific Legal Foundation, and I really am glad that he was on the program. Can you imagine? We had a story like this on a couple of months ago. Can you imagine this frog? He doesn't want to live in Louisiana. Nope. So he calls up all of his other frog friends, and he says, hey, we're going to hop on over to Mississippi, and we're going to live over there. But the government and the Environmental Protection Agency says, the frog used to live here in Louisiana, but now he can't live here in Louisiana, but we're going to keep the property condemned so that nobody can use it in case the frog wants to come back. My grandmother used to say, ay, 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 ay. Oh, my goodness sakes. Hey, we got to pay some bills here right now, and I want to remind you about our friends and your friends over at Ark Animal Hospital, 750 21st Street near Connection Credit Union in Heyburn. Oh, yeah. They are a mixed animal practice, meaning big or small. They love them and take care of them all. Absolutely. And it's going to get hot, hot, hot towards the end of this week. Maybe hit over 100. Do not take your dogs and kitty cats with you to town. It's too doggone hot. Leave them at home with plenty of air and water. Easy to say. Air and water. There you go. So, once again, too, Ark Animal Hospital, taking care of all the itty-bitty pets and the great big livestock. And remember, they're located at 750 21st Street near Connection Credit Union. The number to call, 678-1177. They do have the warm hearts for the cold noses. Oh, Okay. Oh, I don't know if their noses are cold, but I know that they have great furniture and everything else, and that's Lee's Furniture, Floors and More at 459 Overland in Burley. Yes, it is true. Jeff and the entire crew working with you and for you for the comfort and beautification of your home. Oh, boy, listen to this. They have a great sale on mattresses, queen mattresses for only $2.99. Oh, you better check it out. Sleep comfortably. And don't forget, too, they can take care of all the beautification of your home, all the carpet buys, everything. And I just got a brand new recliner from Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More, 459 Overland in Burley. You stop in and see them today. Oh, boy, I've got time for some calls. Give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. I got to tell you this. I was going to tell you in the first hour, but New York State, and I want to get your opinion on some of this stuff. Give me a call on this. In New York State, some of their assemblymen and women have come up with this idea to create a bill that's been introduced, and you know what? It might pass and get a signature of the governor that would allow, listen carefully now, all workers at all businesses in the state of New York to get 3 months paid leave when a family member passes away. Now think about that. What they say in the bill, they're calling it a bereavement bill. And they're saying in the bill that let's say that you lost your grandmother. And you are allowed to go on a paid leave for 3 months and receive 67% of your wages. This is going to destroy, cripple, and kill small businesses. How can they afford it? How can any business afford it? 3 months bereavement at almost 3/4 of your pay. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. What are your thoughts on this?
Good morning, Zeb. The Cuomo family are among the crookedest of politicians. They've been in power so damn long that they feel like they've become kings and queens.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care what happens to you and I. The only thing they care about is getting reelected again, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I think it is too, but now, you used to live back in that area, and it seems like whether it's the left coast, California, or whether it's the right coast with New York State, there's a whole bunch of nincompoops that are involved in all this legislation. But honestly, what do you think about this bereavement bill that would give an allowance of 3 months off of work at almost 3/4 of your pay?
Do you know how many people would be phoning these things, coming up with fake deaths and all that stuff just to collect this money?
Yeah, and I was thinking,
would become a major racket.
I agree with you. I think you're 100% spot on, and I was thinking, and I don't want to sound like I'm being harsh or cruel on this, but let's say that a man loses his mother, and he's off for 3 months. All right? During that period of time, his father passes away. Now, I do not know the structure of this bill, Tony, but let's assume he gets another 3 months off with pay. Well, then, at the end of that 3 months, let's say that his wonderful, loving, kind aunt dies. You could literally go the whole year without working, Tony.
Oh, I know it. You know, this is just another welfare system that we're coming
That's
up
right.
with that we can't afford right now. We're so overloaded with welfare people, and I see it every day down here at one of our local markets.
You know, what you're saying is 100% correct, because I see it as a kind of a knife in the back of employers and business owners and business operators. How in the world can they afford to pay 67% of someone's total wage and then have to go hire somebody else to do the job while they're on that bereavement leave? They can't afford that.
Well, two things will happen. They'll hire somebody at a lower wage, and if that doesn't work, our businesses will be going back overseas again.
Yeah. I listened to a business owner talk about this early this morning at about 4:15, and he was just throwing his hands up in the air saying, what happens in a small business where you have maybe 10, 15 employees, and all of a sudden 3 of them lose close relatives in a month, and you're out also their wages, plus you've got to find somebody else to go do that job. It's almost impossible.
Well, I remember living in New York and just how crooked things were and how high the taxes were because the politicians were giving everything away to keep themselves in office.
Yeah.
And I know all about that. I've been through that.
Well, this is insanity as far as I'm concerned with Cuomo and the rest of his cronies back there. But we'll take some other calls and see what other people say about this. But I can tell by the tone of your voice that you are absolutely against it.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Okay, Zeb, I'll let you go.
Thanks, Tony. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't hang up, caller. I'll be there. Let's ride 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. Open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 9 to 4. Oh, 0% financing on the ATVs. Oh, they've got all the watercraft. Oh, my goodness, they've got the Honda Pioneer side-by-sides. You can get out of Dodge City and just get up in the hills. Absolutely enjoy the great outdoors. And don't forget, all the accessories are there, and they've got a fantastic service department to keep you running. Oh boy, let's ride 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World, where the fun is sold. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Well, good morning, Mr. Bell. You know, this thing about the bereavement going on back there in New York, it just shows how wimpy everybody is. And I shouldn't say that. You know, everybody grieves in a different way, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer than others, you know. But you need 3 months bereavement?
Yeah, but
I mean, come on.
Yeah, Donna, all this is a way to beat the system and create more of a socialistic attitude. Oh, the government will take care of you. Oh, the government will feed and clothe you. Oh, Aunt Martha that you haven't seen since she moved back to Connecticut in 20 years, she died, but you get 3 months off work and we'll pay you 67% of your wages.
Yeah, I can't see it passing even back there. I mean, there can't be that many stupid people. You know, a week or so maybe. But, you know, my grandma's been dead for 48 years, and I still miss her. But I don't grieve about it all. You know, you put it in your heart, and you have your memories, and that should be good enough.
Absolutely. That's a good way to phrase it, Donna, and I thank you for your call.
You're very welcome. Have a wonderful day.
God bless. Thank you. Nice lady. I just have never heard anything so positively stupid in my life. It's another way, in my opinion, to make dependency grow on the government, to be the catch-all, be-all, supply-all to the people that are too darn lazy with no initiative and no self-responsibility to get up off the couch and go feed themselves and their family. But 3 months, 3 months bereavement? Just think about that. Like from September 1st, when the kids go back to school, September, October, November, until after Thanksgiving? I'm going to cry every day as I get 67% of my paycheck. Unbelievable. Give me a call. Let me know your thoughts. When this kind of absolute insanity hits either the left coast, California, or the right coast, New York, you know that there's going to be people in between that are going to pick up on this absolute craziness, and they're going to try to promote it in their state. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Don't forget Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Absolutely all your life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and so much more. All you need to do is call them for an appointment today at 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. They are dedicated and really devoted to serving you and helping you. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. That's plumb insanity. I don't know how any business of any, small business could survive at all. You got enough people that don't show up for work in most of the small businesses. You don't need an excuse to let them stay off more.
Jerry, I could not agree with you more, and why anyone could come up with a bill like this to introduce to their state legislature to say that this is common sense, why it's absolutely destroying small businesses. If you were a business owner, like I said a moment ago, and you had maybe, let's say, 15 or 20 employees, and during the course of a year, possibly there were 6 or 7 deaths attributed to letting your family or your business people off, why that could break you.
Well, it would be a terrible thing, and it makes no sense. I don't have that many funerals that I go to that are family, but I do a lot of funerals.
Yes.
I go to a lot of them. I've done 48 this year.
Oh, my.
Well, they're military, and
yes.
They're people I don't know, but we just do a military ceremony.
Yes.
For them. But if I did all this stuff and asked for vacation for it, it'd be... Of course, I'm not working anymore, so it don't really matter, I guess. I'm talking nonsense.
No, you're not talking nonsense. You are talking common sense. But I tell you what, I'm beginning to think that most politicians, if you let them out of a 8x12 room, they're going to go out and do something stupid every day, and they're proving that to us.
Well, they've never worked at a job where
That's
you
right.
have to be responsible.
That's right.
They've always worked for the government, and the government's got all the money they want. They just, it don't matter how much they spend. They'll never spend enough because there ain't enough out there for them to spend.
There you go. Jerry, I always appreciate your call. You're a dear friend. God bless you, man. Thank you.
You too. You take care. May the Lord bless you and all them little children out there listening with you.
I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you so much. And I want to remind everybody that tonight is the first night of the Jerome County Fair and Pro Rodeo. You'd better believe it. Tonight's the big night, and don't want to miss it. And all you have to do is just get over there to the fairgrounds. I believe everything's going to get underway at about 7 o'clock tonight at the Jerome County Fairgrounds. 3 big nights of top-notch professional rodeo action, and due to the fact that they're on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I bet you they're going to get a lot of the big name and world champions into Jerome. And then don't forget on Friday, they've got the great big Jesse G concert Friday night right there at the fairgrounds starting at 7 p.m. All of this and more at your Jerome County Fair and Pro Rodeo. Wheels, did I have another call waiting? I can't remember.
No, you're all good, sir.
All right. Well, I think what we're going to do is we're going to go with the weather forecast quickly. And the weather is brought to everybody this hour by our friends at Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. We were really honored to have Leiden Crane on our program yesterday talking about the big tax changes, the tax rate changes, and the new deductions and some of the alterations of the old deductions. And it was really interesting, and it surely will affect a lot of people in the audience. So check with these professionals, Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane and Company. They've been providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area for well over 50 years, and find out for you, your family, and your business what these changes mean. Call them today with offices in Burley and Rupert, Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane and Company. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Another hazy, warm day here in the valley. Here's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch. Widespread haze today due to the area wildfires, but we are expecting sunny skies and a high of 90. Tonight, clear skies with a low of 56. This high-pressure system is going to stick around with us throughout the rest of the week and on into the weekend. Looking at more hazy conditions for tomorrow, sunny skies with a high of 94. Expecting an overnight low of 58 for Wednesday night. By Thursday, sunny and 97. Friday, it's definitely going to be warm. If you have a chance to stay indoors, I highly suggest you do so. Sunny skies, high of 100 for Friday. Saturday, expecting sunny skies and a high of 90 and a high of 90 for Sunday. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Wow. It is going to go back up the slide, if you will. We're going to see temperatures, she said, maybe Friday of over 100 degrees. Please, please stay cool, stay hydrated, and be careful out there. And make sure your livestock and all your pets have plenty of water, too. Hey, by the way, our weather brought to you by some really good people that know and understand tax return preparation, tax planning, business consulting, retirement planning, all of this and so much more. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane and Company, with offices in Burley and Rupert. You get a hold of them today. Really top-notch professional people. You know, when I talk about top-notch professional people, I got to mention that I just recently bought a tractor from Stoats Equipment Company, your John Deere dealer at 119 Overland in Burley, and I just absolutely was amazed. And I don't say this just to give a commercial. I'm giving a testimonial. I was amazed as to the personality of the store and the business and the people. They really are concerned and they're really caring, and I'm really high on them. And I have Vic, the store manager of Stoats Equipment at 119 Overland in Burley, on the program right now, your John Deere dealer. They do make your life easier. Good morning, Vic. How are you?
Oh, give me one moment, sir.
Hurry. All right, we're trying to get him on the phone, and hopefully he is there. After that build-up, I thought he would be ready to go, and we'll see if we can get him. Is he there?
Give me one moment still.
All right, we're trying to get him on the air, so stand by. Stoats Equipment, your John Deere dealer, and we're going to be talking about this kind of this time of the season, what's going on, what their busy time is, and also their involvement next week at the Cassia County Fair. Do we have him?
Give me 1 second.
Poor Wheels. He's caught in the middle. Trying to catch somebody on the phone sometimes not the easiest.
All right, sir. I got him on the...
The lost is found. Good morning, Vic, over at Stoats Equipment, your John Deere dealer at 119 Overland and Burley. I gave you this great big flowery buildup, and I said, and here's Vic, and you weren't there.
Well, I like to show up late. Keeps them waiting.
You're like one of these people that go to these special parties where you have to keep your little finger up in the air, and you want to be fashionably late so you get all the people.
No, my dad would whoop me bad if he ever saw my finger up in the air. So no, I am not one of those guys. In fact, I don't like big parties because I don't like to. I like the smaller groups where you can mingle. There's more depth there. Big parties don't interest me.
Hey, you were just on vacation. Give us a little background of the vacation, where you went, and everything else.
Well, we took a trip to the Northwest. We went and seen some friends over in Oregon, and worked our way up to Seattle, Washington. My oldest brother lives in Port Orchard. Spent some time with him in the beautiful Northwest. Ate a lot of seafood, had a great time, got a little rain, and it was a lot cooler.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's good to have you back, but I want to say a great big shout out to the rest of your staff. While you were gone, they did a phenomenal job. And Wheels, we got a little bit of feedback over there at the station. Ride that gain for me, buddy. Vic, I told everybody that I bought a tractor from you recently, Stoats Equipment, your John Deere dealer. I could not be happier, and I couldn't be more impressed with the people. It's just more than the salesman. There's a lot of people involved that really are dedicated to serving the public.
No, we have a great team here. Like I told my guys and also our customers when we first came up here, Stoats Equipment has a lot of depth and has a lot of good things we do well, and customer service has always been on the forefront. Always been one of my priorities is that I'm a firm believer if you take care of your customers, they're going to keep coming back, and they're going to tell their neighbor and their buddy and so on and so forth. But these guys have always wanted to do the right thing. Only thing that we've done and I've done is empowered them to do that, and that's to take care of our customers. And if you do that and you do that well, you have a happy customer, and he's going to keep coming back, like I said. So it's pretty simple, and it's a golden rule. Do unto others as you have them do unto you, and it hasn't failed me yet. And I really like the attitude here of all of the employees, and whether I'm here or not, that's a good thing if they're doing their job. In fact, I've been told when I leave it runs better, so there you go.
I want to ask you this about the people that get involved in the implement business and farm machinery like Stoats Equipment. What kind of educational process and how long does it take to be as proficient and efficient as they are?
Well, it's definitely a learning process for both the farmer, the consumer, and of course the provider, which would be us. Technology is advancing so quickly on both sides of that coin, where the farmer knows it's only a good tool if he knows how to use it, and we can only sell that tool if we know how to use it proficiently and make him more efficient. So we're a helper, and we need to know what we're doing. So we spend a lot of time training our employees. John Deere recommends that we spend 20 hours per employee. We actually double that at 40. So we overtrain our employees, but it's constant. It's a need. I've been with the company 30 years, and I'm learning every day, and I think that's part of the wisdom is that you're never too smart. You can always learn, and we've learned a lot from our educated Idaho farmers. They're very advanced up here. They're very smart. They're very efficient. They're very good at what they do. So we're not going to tell them how to farm, but we will try to provide them the tools to make them more efficient.
Vic, I can understand. I'm not a farmer. I didn't grow up on a farm. I grew up around horses all my life. But I can understand the mechanics and the workings of a baler. But when I get to some of this big equipment like these huge grain combines and everything, man, I am lost as to it must have been a real genius, somebody that could have made a rocket ship and gone to the moon that designed these big combines. Tell us a little bit about that.
It is amazing what they've done with the combine and how far that they've advanced from the original pull behind thrashing machine. And if you ever get a chance to go on to John Deere and look at the archives of all these videos, and you see these old farmers in the 20s and 30s and pulling basically a 6-foot reel on it and thrashing grain and maybe lucky to do 1 or 2 acres a day. And now they're doing 40 to 60 acres a day and massive amounts of grain and very little waste. And it's just the new S-Series John Deere combine, the T-Series combine. They're so advanced, and they just do such a great job. And with the big headers they have on them now, and anywhere from 30 to 35 foot. It's just amazing that they're massive and they're very efficient, but they're expensive. So we have to make sure we're providing again a very fine-tuned machine that provides the customer the efficiency and the accuracy, and because fuel is expensive, time is expensive, grain prices aren't where they should be, so they need to get every kernel of grain there and be as efficient as possible. But yeah, you're right. It's amazing. They're just you have to run one. You have to sit in the seat, put your butt in the seat, and run one. It's fun.
I think I can
have to worry about the bills and do it every day. It's a job. It's but it's also, it's their livelihood and it's their passion, and they're very passionate about their equipment, and you darn sure better provide a good machine.
Absolutely. Now, I would assume that next week, of course, with the Cassia County Fair, I would assume that Stoats Equipment and you and a lot of people are going to be there talking up all this great John Deere equipment.
Absolutely. We're very proud to be part of the Minidoka and the Cassia County Fairs. They just finished up with the Minidoka, but the Cassia starts on August 11th, and it's through the 18th. There's rodeos, there's the fair. The kids come out there and support the kids and see what they've done and the time that the parents and they've put into their animals, and just meet good people. And if you haven't had one of the LDS maple bars fresh off that fryer, my God, you're missing life, because I tell you what, I've probably been in that line way too many times and gained too many pounds. But it's a fun place. It's a great place to bring your family. We'll have equipment there. We'll have 2 booths, and we'll be involved. We're actually the sponsor for the rodeo this year, and working with all of them. We're proud to be part of it because it is just a great quality event. Benefits everybody, benefits our community, and just shows us, the Cassia County, that we're proud to be part of it, and this is a great place to be.
I announced that Cassia County Fair and Rodeo for 30 years in that announcer stand, and I miss it, but I know that you're going to be there on behalf of Stoats Equipment, the John Deere dealer at 119 Overland in Burley. Vic, you make everybody's life a lot easier, and we're just really thankful that you're on our program. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
A great job from Stoats Equipment Company, your John Deere dealer at 119 Overland in Burley. Really, really nice people. We got to get ready to go to the news here in just a moment, and I want to remind you that coming up on Thursday, we have a segment called Cassia County School Days, and that is brought to you by A Child's World. We're very thankful for that sponsorship. They, of course, are a family store at 1308 Overland in Burley, and they urge you to come on in. They've got all the children's clothing and all the baby and children's furniture, and they've got all the games and the puzzles and the toys, everything. I just urge you to stop in and be a part of shopping in your own community at A Child's World. 1308 Overland in Burley. They are waiting to serve you, and they will bring you Cassia County School Days on Thursdays at 10:10 right here on Zeb at the Ranch. Here's what we've got coming up for the next hour. We're going to take a little break for the news, and then we're going to have Dr. History coming on the program. We're going to be talking to a gentleman back in New York State, not New York City, but New York State, John Hagedorn. And he's got a podcast called Heroes, Legends, Histories, and Mysteries about the Old West and other figures of about 100 years ago. And then at 10:30, we're going to have Representative Fred Wood come on our program talking about the Medicaid issue and problem here in the state of Idaho. So don't go away. We'll send it over to Wheels and be back in about 7 minutes. Oh, good morning, good morning, good morning. Zeb at the Ranch, hour number 3 on this Tuesday, August 7th. My, oh my, how summer is speeding by. And, of course, we're brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And if you're getting ready for a road trip, you better stop in and see them today. Also, some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Well, on Tuesdays at 10:06, we have Dr. History, as you know. And Dr. History is taking a little bit of a vacation, and we were searching as to who to get on the program this morning and fill his shoes, or boots, respectively. And we found this gentleman back in New York State by the name of John Hagedorn. John, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I'm doing great. How about you?
Absolutely fantastic. Well, tell me a little bit, John. I don't know too much about you. I don't know some of your past history or what you do. Give us a thumbnail sketch of who the heck you are.
Well, similarly to Ken, I'm a podcaster. I do audio podcasts, I have a network of podcasts called 1001 Stories Network. And my biggest, most listened to podcast is called 1001 Heroes, Legends, Histories, and Mysteries. And that comes out weekly with episodes. People listen to it online, like they do with Dr. History.
Okay, now...
It's found at Apple, iTunes Podcasts, at any place where people are getting podcasts now, we're there.
Okay.
We do, like the title suggests, we do a lot of different subjects. One of my favorites is Western history.
Well, now tell me, John.
Contacted me and asked if I wanted to have a talk with you about one of my favorite characters, and that would be Tom Horn.
Okay.
So I was hoping we could get the conversation going on that.
Well, we can in just a second, but I also want to ask you, your podcast, how did you get started doing this? I mean, after all, you're back in New York, which is not exactly the hole-in-the-wall Wyoming, or it's not Boot Hill or anything like that. How did you get started doing this back in New York State?
Well, first of all, we're in Virginia. I'm in Virginia Beach, Virginia.
I see.
I grew up out in California until I was 7 or 8. Then we moved to Illinois, then moved to Pennsylvania. I've gone back out west a number of times, so I'm a friend of the West. I actually know horses pretty well and have ridden them, not in rodeo. I know you're a rodeo announcer, and you're quite well known out in that area. But I'm a friend of the West. I know horses. I know the West, and I have a great appreciation for the settlers who first came out there and fought Indians and farmed, and did their best just to hang on.
Well, let's get started on your project with Tom Horn. This has been one of the most fascinating stories, I think, in the Old West about Tom Horn. Did he or didn't he commit a murder? Was he hung wrongfully, or should he have been given a reprieve? What do you know about Tom Horn?
I did a lot of research for the episode that we did called Tom Horn at 1001 Heroes. And I'm going to imagine there might be a few listeners who are not familiar with Tom Horn and his story. Do you want me to give them a brief on that?
Yeah, give us kind of a synopsis as to what led up to him becoming historically famous over a dastardly deed, supposedly. So give us a thumbnail sketch.
He was a favorite of the Cowboys. At 16, he left home in Missouri. It was a rough, hard-scrabble life. He became an Indian scout under Al Sieber. He was sent to an Indian reservation when he was 16, 17, stayed there for a year, got to know the Apaches, got to know even Geronimo, who had respect for Horn as a boy, got to learn the language. And Al Sieber was trained him at that time to be an interpreter, because Horn was pretty good with language, because he learned Mexican while he was there, he learned Apache while he was there. So in that capacity, he became a valued scout for the U.S. Army, for the cavalry back then. He went on to different things after scouting, after the money dried up in scouting. He actually went on a gold expedition hunting with a guy that he knew called Ed Sheplin, who had put together a group of about 20 men. And it was Ed Sheplin, a lot of people know, who discovered Tombstone. And he hit the road there. Horn didn't get a piece of that. He left before they hit the big one, but he was with Sheplin when they actually went back, and they started that mine there. He was also the guy that, for the cavalry, ended up talking Geronimo into surrender. Geronimo had a lot of respect for Horn. That was years later. But so he was there at a lot of critical points. He was also there as a packer with the U.S. Army. He'd been sent to Cuba, I believe it was, and he was in with the Rough Riders on that particular campaign. He wasn't riding with them, but he was a packer for them, and the packers for them had to deliver ammunition and supplies and horses to the front lines. So he was no stranger to that. But he came back to the States. He wanted the ranch. That was his big deal. He wanted to get away from all this and ranch. So he invested everything he had into a cattle ranch in Arizona. But it was hit by rustlers, and they took all his livestock, which bankrupted him. And ever since that day, he had it in for rustlers. He he then started hiring out as a hired gun to different cattle ranchers who, at that time, were having a lot of trouble with rustlers. And he started basically killing for hire. And he killed he killed at least 17 men that is known in different situations. He also worked for the Pinkertons. But when he started killing too many of the people that the Pinkertons were sending him after, they had to let him go. So he had become, over a period of years after his ranch got hit, he had become a very bitter guy. And he was a crack shot with a rifle. And he started basically just assassinating people for hire. And I don't want to take over the whole conversation, so jump in anytime.
You know, I was fascinated with this history of Tom Horn, and you said some things that I was not aware of, and I've got some books on Tom Horn. But let me ask you, you mentioned the name Al Sieber and his affiliation with Tom Horn and also Geronimo. When they made a movie, and for the life of me, I cannot remember the name of the movie, but it starred Matt Damon, I believe. Did he not play the part of that Al Sieber that was kind of a liaison between the cavalry and Geronimo?
I never saw the Matt Damon version. I saw the Steve McQueen version in 1980, which was called Tom Horn. And I don't recall how they set him up in that. I haven't seen the movie for a number of years. But McQueen played Horn. And I know that in Horn's autobiography, which is where I got a lot of my information, I read that autobiography from beginning to end. And he ended it about 10 years before the trial that we'll get to in a second. But in that autobiography, that's where he mentions how he met Sieber. He was still a boy, was in Sieber's employ, and Sieber put him on the Apache Indian reservation.
Okay.
And with the purpose of getting him to learn the language, getting him to understand their customs, how they lived, how they fought, which he did. And then Sieber was able to pull him out of there, and now he had an excellent scout, a guide, rifle shot, and interpreter.
Okay.
To understand both Mexican and Apache.
Now, let me ask you this, John.
The information I got on Sieber came out of Horn's autobiography.
Okay, now, John, let me ask you this question, and then I'll let you continue on with this. When Tom Horn went to Wyoming, wasn't that part of the famed or infamous Johnson County War? Wasn't that the name of that situation between the ranchers, etc.?
Yeah, it was the Johnson County War. He was hired on to one side or the other. I think that one was also called the Pleasant Valley War.
Yes.
Correct on that?
Yes. And how old was
hired on to, but a lot of guys were dropping.
Right. How old was Tom Horn at that time?
He killed the first guy that actually started that war.
I see. Let me just jump in here and ask you this, for a time frame of ages as far as how old he was. When this started in Wyoming and he was a hired killer for the ranchers, how old was he at that point?
When he started working for the ranchers, he was he'd already done duty as a deputy sheriff in Gila County, New Mexico, or Gila County, New Mexico. He'd already done some rodeo. He'd been working part-time on ranches, et cetera, I would say he was about 28.
Okay.
But he started working for the Cattlemen's Association in Wyoming.
Okay.
And he was also working in Colorado. He spent a lot of time in there.
I see.
As well.
Okay.
Working for Cattlemen's Associations in Colorado.
Okay, now...
But by the time he went to Wyoming, I would say he was 28.
All right, now take us to the problem, the major thrust of what happened with Tom Horn and the murder, supposedly. Take us through that story.
Yeah, by this time, Horn was up in the Wyoming area. He was a known figure. Important to realize that in this story. In that, he was hunting down rustlers. That's what he was doing, and he was getting paid for it. And he was an excellent shot with a rifle. His way of murder was usually to set up an ambush spot, and he could do a hard shot at 300 yards.
Wow.
He had a Winchester 94 30-30, and he was very, very good with it. As you and a lot of your fans probably know, there's a limited accuracy to rifles from that time, and if you were nailing somebody at 300 at 300 yards, you were one heck of a shot. He was. And so he had such a reputation that when rustlers knew he was in the same county, most of them would leave.
Wow.
And the ones that didn't leave, he would actually tack a note on the door and say, "You got 30 days, or you have 1 week." And if they didn't go, which some of them didn't, they'd end up dead. Not only from ambush, but in some cases he'd walk right up to the front door, open the door, and say, "You didn't honor the message. You're still here. You're dead." Sometimes he would pin their ears on certain trees or in certain places so that other rustlers could get the idea that he was around. So he had a devastating effect on the rustling up in Wyoming. He was also getting very, very overconfident in himself and his abilities, and he drank, which ended up to be his downfall. There was a particular situation where you had a guy named, I'm trying to get his name right. It was Kells Nickel. Kells Nickel was a sheep farmer, and as all your fans know, cattle ranchers hated sheep farmers because a lot of times they would use the same land for grazing, and sheep take up everything. They just tear up the soil. There's nothing left when a herd of sheep have been grazing on your land for a couple of weeks, and they had to keep moving them from area to area, and the ranchers hated that. This was just the time when barbed wire fences were just starting to arrive on the scene. This was around 1900, 1895 in there. And the barbed wire fences were starting to stop that, but still, guys like Tom Horn were out there literally making trouble for sheep ranchers.
Mm-hmm.
There was a sheep rancher named Kells Nickel. Well, one day, Kells Nickel had sent his son out. His son was a tall kid. He was only 14 years old. He was wearing his dad's coat, wearing his dad's hat, and he was working on a fence out there. And the next day, they find Nickel's son laying dead, 2 shots right near the heart, and his head had been placed on a stone by whoever had literally taken time to ambush him, then walked down there and arranged the head on a stone, apparently to say that this is what I did. It was investigated. There was a war going. There was a big bitter dispute going on between Kells Nickel and one of his neighbors named Miller.
Mm-hmm.
What it looks like here, the sheriff ended up picking up the neighbor family first, the Millers, and questioned them, and for reasons that I've never discovered in research, let them off. Because they would have been a pretty good target, too, to look at. And I think they were involved. But at a long trial that took 2 weeks, they tried Tom Horn for the murder of Kells Nickel's son.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that came out, the sheriff of the county, Joe LaForge, who a lot of people said had it in for Horn. Horn was the second guy that LaForge questioned. And LaForge had gone out to the murder site, looked at the scene, didn't find any of the rifle cartridges, didn't find any footprints near the body. But knowing that Horn was even within 40 miles was enough for LaForge. He set up a meeting with Tom Horn in a building where he had 2 stenographers hidden behind a door. One was a law guy, one was a stenographer. And he started asking Horn about. He told Horn, I want to hire you. And he didn't mention the Nichols murder at all. So he told Horn, I want to hire you for a mission. We've got a gang that's been infiltrating the area, and I want you to join that gang for me and find out who they were. I knew you worked with the Pinkertons. I know you're a range detective. Maybe you can help us. So he got Horns to basically trust him. And Horn started bragging about some of the killings he'd done, and gave up some of the killings he had done earlier, and also said that he had shot Nichols at 300 yards, and was basically bragging about it. So Horn put his own foot in the bear trap with regard to that. Any questions at this point? I don't want to just run on and not let you talk.
Well, I'm sitting here, I'm analyzing everything you said, and we're almost out of time, but I wanted to ask you this. With the conversations and the stenographic materials that were taken, eavesdropping on the conversation and everything, bottom line, do you think, after your research, John, that Tom Horn did kill that young boy?
Yeah, I do, and I kind of waffled both ways on that throughout the entire research. But when it comes down to the trial, and then when the 2 weeks of trial material, and then when it came down to the appeals that went out after that, it looks to me very much like a Horn did kill him, thinking it was the adult Charles Nickel.
I see.
Because the boy resembled his dad, and he was wearing his dad's coat and he was wearing his dad's hat. I think when Horn shot him, he didn't realize he was shooting a 14-year-old boy. I think he was hired by Miller because one of the witnesses at the trial said that they had seen Horn at Miller's ranch, and Miller had an open feud with Nichols. It was not a secret. That was well known in the county.
What?
I think the cattlemen definitely had Nichols on their list. And I do believe that Horn took him out.
Well, let me ask you.
Horn, like I said, the Cowboys loved him. They put a mask over him. They had a water-activated trap for this hanging, and Horn was talking just as cool as could be to the sheriff and the guys standing around. And he died game, as the Cowboys said. There's a great song out there by a guy named Mike Hurwitz that we used in our Tom Horn episode at 1001 Heroes, Legends, Histories, and Mysteries podcast. Fantastic song by Hurwitz, and he's a cowboy. He's out there not too far from you. That's Hurwitz.
Mm-hmm.
But he graciously allowed us permission to use that song called Tom Horn. And it speaks well of the story and the saga.
Okay.
There's a lot of guys out there who believe that Horn didn't do it, that he was framed, but I think he did.
John, what did you learn when you were doing the research on Tom Horn and the war that was going on between the cattlemen and the rustlers and everything else? What did you learn that surprised you the most about the historical event that took place over in Wyoming? Was there any part of the story that you were kind of taken aback by?
I think it was sad. That what moved me most, it was sad because had Horn not let his pride or his bitterness get in the way, considering all the things he had done and all the parts of Western history that he was involved in, he should have been as big a name as Hickok or Oak, but he took the wrong trail.
Yeah.
And I think that's a point to remember, that not all heroes are perfect, and that not every ending is the kind of ending we would hope for. But he had been involved in so much and could have ended up on the other side of history had he done the right things. But he got carried away with his bitterness over what had happened to him, and I think he let that determine his life. And I think he was looking. I think he knew that he was going to end up at a noose sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Let me ask you, did he have any family that still may reside in any part of the United States? Did he have any family at all? Sisters, brothers, uncles, aunts, etc.?
I think he did have, he definitely did have at least one sister and one adopted brother. And I have seen, in the course of research, sometimes I'll go into genealogies, and there are definitely Horns out there who do claim relation with Tom Horn.
You know, I've really enjoyed having you on the program, John, and I hope we can do this again. And why don't you go ahead and give a plug to your podcast one more time before I have to wrap it up for this morning?
Zeb, thank you so much. I enjoyed being on Zeb at the Ranch. I've been able to access your show online. It's fantastic. You've got a great show. You do a good job. I also want to say hello to Ken Turner, Dr. History, out there, for allowing us this opportunity. My show is 1001 Heroes, Legends, Histories, and Mysteries. And if you can remember, just Google 1001 Heroes podcast. You'll find 1,000 different ways to listen to us. We're heard worldwide. We've been out for 3 years. You had asked me that question earlier. We're just going into our 4th year now. We've been very, very successful, and I love doing this. I've been in television. I've done a lot of writing. I've been in advertising and marketing, and all the things that I've done. I enjoy podcasting and being able to share stories with our audience and with people, especially true stories from history, because a lot of that's been covered over, buried over, changed. You name it. I just did one called Drums Along the Mohawk to show what had really happened with the frontier wars with the Indians and the British paying for scalps back during the Revolution.
Absolutely.
I like to bring the true history out there to people, and I think people appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate your bringing me on this show very, very much, and hope we can get together again for another episode and maybe choose some other subjects.
We will do that, John Hagedorn. I appreciate it. I'm going to be in touch with you via the phone. Thank you so much, John. God bless you, and we appreciate you being on Dr. History. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, sir. Very nice man right there, John Hagedorn, back in Virginia. I said New York, and I misspoke. It should have been Virginia. Thank you very much. I'm glad to have him on the program. You know, I do business with all of my advertisers and sponsors, and I want to brag, and it's not brag, it's a fact, about Save on Shells. Anthony and Save on Shells, when I bought my new pickup, I said I wanted to have a new camper shell on there that really looked sharp. Well, enter Save on Shells, 1027 Overland and Burley. Anthony really went to work and got me just the right one. They can custom fit any truck on the road. I urge you to go in there and see him today at 1027 Overland and Burley, or give him a call. That's the easy way to start the conversation. 312-1525. That number again, 312-1525. Save on Shells and Anthony. Absolutely the best. Right now, we're going to send it back over to Wheels. We'll be back in about 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Now, we're going to have our guest with us in just a moment. Right now, I want to remind you, next week, of course, the Cassia County Fair. And there's a lot of great merchants that are inviting you to come on to the Cassia County Fair, including Baker Brothers Pump Service, fastest and most reliable pump service company. From residential pump service to water softener sales, they can do it all at Baker Brothers Pump Service, Burley. Don't forget to give them a call. Burley Veterinary Hospital. Yes, the folks at Burley Vet, they invite you, if you have any trouble with your animals, large or small, they've got 2 great doctors for all your animals' needs. Don't forget to give them a jingle, 678-5509, Burley Veterinary Hospital, serving you. And Redder's Showcase at 2611 Overland and Burley. Huge, big Fair Days special sale going on. Started yesterday, goes through the 18th. 12 months, same as cash. All the freezers on sale. Washers starting at $3.99. Refrigerators starting at $4.99. All of this and more at Redder's Showcase, 2611 Overland in Burley. And as we've stated, the Cassia County Fair actually is going to kick off this coming Saturday, August 11th, with the great big Cassia County concert. It's going to open up at 6:30 with the gates opening up and the great music of Asleep at the Wheel, and then Casey Donahue. Going to be fantastic for a great concert this year. Be sure and get a hold of the Fair Board office for your tickets. And then on Sunday, August 12th, don't forget the Monster Truck Show, provided and put on by Live a Little Productions. Going to be fantastic. All of this and so much more at your Cassia County Fair and Rodeo. Right now, one of my best friends and also one of our most honored legislators that does a great job, Representative Fred Wood. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. How are you this morning? I'm doing great.
Well, fantastic. I hope the summer heat has not wilted you.
No, I actually have been on a family vacation for 2 weeks and just going to be back in Boise tonight and Burley tomorrow morning. But but right now still got a twin under each arm up in Spokane. So, but I'm taking a break to talk to you and your listeners.
Well, I appreciate it, Fred, and family's always got to come first, but I thank you for coming on the program. I wanted to talk to you this morning. Maybe I have some wrong opinions. Maybe I'm not thinking clearly, and that's why I wanted you on with Common Sense Approach to the Medicaid expansion possibility here in the state of Idaho. Give us kind of a thumbnail sketch as to what the problem is and what you think we should do about it.
Zeb, happy to, and I'll be happy to come on at any point in time that you would like me to come on between now and the election, because I think this is important, and that your listeners need to understand exactly what's going on, not only with this initiative, but there's one other one and other things. So I think it's important to start off initially. Most people have never interacted with Medicaid or the Medicaid program, and I think there's a lot of people don't understand exactly what it does. It does more than one thing, and so I thought I would take just 2 or 3 minutes initially to kind of outline what the program does, etc., and then we can get into a discussion of what I think we ought to do and why, and then we can follow that up future days in more detail, whatever you want and whatever the listeners would like to hear.
Very good.
First of all, the Medicaid program started in the 60s, and it's a volunteer program between the states and the federal government. Most people think that it deals strictly with health care. That's not true. In the recent 5 to 6, 7 years, the federal government has kind of integrated things more, so it's more difficult to tease out exactly what portion is health care and what portion is long-term care. The last time I looked, and when I was on the Budget Committee, Medicaid was about 48% health care and about 52% long-term care. And the long-term care is basically that portion of both the elderly and the disabled that has to do with housing, etc., and doesn't have to do with the administration or the delivery of health care. For instance, whenever your mom or dad, or mine, or our grandparents, or whoever, get so old that they can't take care of themselves at home, and the family, everybody's working, and so the family can't take care of them, but they don't have any assets, and they have to go to the nursing home, Medicaid pays for that. In addition to, they pay for their health care needs, etc. It's a voluntary program, and no state has to have any kind of Medicare or Medicaid program if they don't want one. Now, all states have chosen to do that because in the last 50 years, health care and long-term care have gotten so expensive that states and counties in particular, and counties are actually on the hook in Idaho, according to our Constitution, can pay for that. I mean, it's just not within their capabilities of paying for that. So Medicaid was instituted, and what Medicaid says with respect to health care portion of it, that if you're going to have a Medicaid program, that the state will share that, or the federal government will share that with the states. The minimum help that the federal government will give you is a 50-50 share, and based on a complicated formula called the Federal Medicaid Assistance Percent, or FMAP, it will go higher than that, and it's a complicated formula based upon the economics of your state, etc. And in Idaho, the federal government puts up about 71% of the money, and the state of Idaho puts up about 29% of the money for all of Medicaid, including long-term care, health care, etc. The federal government says if you're going to have a program, there's 3 populations that you have to cover under health care portion of it, and that is all children from birth until 18 years old that are below 185% of the federal poverty level and don't have another source of health care financing such as private insurance or whatever. You also have to cover pregnant women, and you have to cover the physically and the mentally disabled. Those people who literally can't care for themselves because of physical or mental disabilities, although the mental disabilities have to be fairly severe. So that's basically what it covers. Now, the next thing I think we need to talk about is a little thing that happened back in 1986. And prior to 1986, health care in the United States was a privilege, and decidedly so. And there was no federal law that basically mandated that you had to take care of a lot of needs of the citizens. But as health care became more expensive, this really came to the front. Congress held a bunch of hearings, and in 1986, they passed the Consolidated Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act, commonly called COBRA, that's the acronym for it, of 1986. And within that big act, and it covered a lot of health care, was an act called the Emergency Medical Treatment and Active Labor Act. And that was in 1986. Now, that act didn't specifically say that health care was a privilege. I mean, health care was a right and no longer a privilege. But the practical effect of all of the legislation basically turned health care into a right, and it was no longer a privilege. For instance, as an emergency department physician, any time that a patient walked into the emergency department and a patient did not take care of them to the fullest extent of the capability of themselves in the hospital, and I lived under this threat every single day, it's a $100,000 fine.
Wow.
And 5 years in the federal prison per patient for anybody that was not taken care of and taken care of appropriately. So you got those kinds of federal laws you have to deal with. You also got a bunch of state laws and state constitutional provisions. The states have always been on the hook for indigent health care in the states. The federal government was never historically much on the hook for indigent health care or any other care, burials or anything like that. That was always up to the states. And both in the territorial constitution and in the state constitution, there are provisions that the counties principally are still on the hook for all indigent care in the state of Idaho, including health care. So Idaho has principally always had a Medicaid program shortly after the existence of Medicaid. But Idaho always limited it to only those populations required to have a program by federal law. And that is children under the age of 18, pregnant women, and the disabled.
Right.
And we always held that to a minimum, and we still do today. There's a couple of minor exceptions, cervical cancer and head of households with children under the age of 26% of the federal poverty level. But both of those are very, very, very small populations.
Well, let me ask you this, Fred.
That backdrop is the backdrop of what I've formulated my opinions on. And so now I'll kind of be quiet and let you speak for a while. And you probably have a ton of questions, maybe some I can answer today. If not, I'll get a bunch of information and we'll come back next week or 2 weeks from now or a month from now. We'll chat again.
You know, Fred, I really appreciated that thumbnail sketch of what it is, Medicaid, and what it's supposed to do. My questions and concerns are these, and I'm open-minded. I think you know me well enough that I'll be glad to look at both sides of the issue, but I've heard so much and I've read so much about the expansion of Medicaid, and there will be and have been a lot of able-bodied people that are taking advantage of the system. Is that right or wrong?
Well, first of all, it's partially right and partially wrong. And this is why I say that. If you look at the national statistics, and here again, let's go back. Right from the inception of Medicaid, all states have had the ability to completely expand Medicaid to every single one of their populations that would qualify. And as a matter of fact, about a dozen states did that well before the Affordable Care Act ever came along, okay? The ability to fully expand, it doesn't have anything to do with the Affordable Care Act. Medicaid, you could always do that. However, you could only do that at the old reimbursement rate. And for a lot of states, that was 50-50. Idaho, because of our low wages, et cetera, we're 71-29, so we get a significant break in that respect. However, all of the states that fully expanded Medicaid or really significantly expanded Medicaid, basically what you found is anybody that was working, because they had other state laws requiring even small businesses to provide health insurance, that an awful lot of people who were on Medicaid were simply the unemployed. That's not true in Idaho. A significant, by far, the large majority of patients who will go on Medicaid have a job in Idaho, but those jobs don't provide health care. They actually work 40 hours a week or more, according to the estimate from the Department of Health and Welfare, because we know all of those people that are on food stamps. We know all of the people that are on any government program whatsoever. But an awful lot of those people are actually working, and working full-time, but they're working for $7 an hour or $8 an hour, and that is well below the federal poverty level. So the national statistics that a lot of people like to quote are skewing that. So, yes, there will be some, but in Idaho, that will be a small minority. That will not be the majority of patients.
Okay, now, again, I'm open for criticism and education on this issue. Will Medicaid expansion, whether it's 70,000 increase in numbers or 80,000, whatever the numbers are, that's irrelevant. But will it be to the point where it's going to cost the state of Idaho and, quite frankly, the Idaho taxpayer more money than they can afford?
Well, I don't think so. And here is the reason. And the state of Idaho, about 6 months ago, the Department of Health and Welfare said, we really need the absolute best scientific actuarial studies done on what Medicaid is actually going to cost the state of Idaho if, in fact, this passes. Okay? We have to know that, and we have to take that to the voters. So the state actuary, which we've had a contract with for a long time, is Milliman and Associates. They're a national firm, big accounting, actuarial firm. The state, that's who does all the state's actuarial studies, no matter what, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in agriculture, whether it's in anything else, Milliman does those studies. So Milliman did a study, and that was one of the questions. Okay, first of all, what is your best guess? And for absolutely no matter what you do, don't you lowball it. You show us in your best actuarial studies your estimate of the number of people that are going to wind up being on Medicaid if this passes, including the number of people that will come off of the state exchange and go on to Medicaid, et cetera, and what that cost is going to be. And so that study was published about 2 weeks ago. And what Milliman said, their estimate is that including everybody when the program is fully built out, and they believe that to be 91,000 people who will eventually be on that. And their cost estimate starts off on day one with 91,000. They didn't lowball it at all. Now, that's not going to obviously be the case because everybody can't show up the first day, but they certainly could in a year.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, the state of Idaho spends a lot of money now, Zeb, on all of these kinds of problems. It's fractured. There's no federal dollars that go into it. So Milliman went through the budget and sorted out all of the money that we spend on that population at this point in time, including the money that's spent for substance abuse in the Department of Corrections, all that kind, the catastrophic health care fund, the amount of money that the counties are spending on that catastrophic health care fund, et cetera. And if you take that, and they were pretty conservative in their estimate because they didn't eliminate the catastrophic health care fund. They only reduced it by 50%. And I don't want to, not to get down a rabbit hole on this because we'll come back to this.
Right.
But when I would be doing this, I would eliminate the CAT fund. Okay? So there would be substantially more savings even than what Milliman comes up with. But what Milliman said is that the cost of the state of Idaho with 91,000 people over a 10-year period of time would be $105 million or $10.5 million a year, capturing what you spend on it now, because all of those would be covered by Medicaid, including Department of Corrections, et cetera, and including the savings that would be saved in the Department of Corrections medical expenses for prisoners, et cetera. You can do that, and that's what the cost would be.
Fred, I'm going to have to jump.
Carefully. I've gone over it with the Department of Health and Welfare. I've not gone over it with Milliman, which I intend to do.
Right.
But I think it's a pretty good, solid study.
I'm going to have to jump in here. As you can tell by your wristwatch, I'm almost out of time, and I've got commitments I have to take care of. But I want to say this. Thank you so much for coming on the program and talking about the possible Medicaid expansion. When you get home, call me, and I'd love to have you back for another sequel, if you will. Fred Wood, Representative Extraordinaire, thank you so much.
Thanks, Seb. Talk to you later.
God bless. Thank you. Hated to cut him off. Interesting conversation, but I've got some commitments, which is one of them right here, the weather. Brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, or you can go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com. Delicious meats. Having a barbecue? Well, they've got the best of marinated pork ribs for only $1.99 per pound. And they've got all those barbecue packages with beef and pork and chicken, etc. It's delicious meat from Scarrows Meats. 331 North Road, Jerome. The number to call, 324-7657. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Another hazy, warm day here in the valley. Here's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch. Widespread haze today due to the area wildfires, but we are expecting sunny skies and a high of 90. Tonight, clear skies with a low of 56. This high-pressure system is going to stick around with us throughout the rest of the week and on into the weekend. Looking at more hazy conditions for tomorrow, sunny skies with a high of 94. Expecting an overnight low of 58 for Wednesday night. By Thursday, sunny and 97. Friday, it's definitely going to be warm. If you have a chance to stay indoors, I highly suggest you do so. Sunny skies, high of 100. for Friday. Saturday, expecting sunny skies and a high of 90 and a high of 90 for Sunday. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina. Excellent job. And again, our thanks to Don Scarrow and the rest of the crew at Scarrow's Meats. Delicious meats at Scarrow's, 331 North Road, Jerome, number 324-7657, and it is true. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. I want to say a big shout out and thank you to our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. Get ready for a road trip. Well, you can't get ready for a road trip unless you stop in there and make sure that you've got the safest of tires. If not, you'd better check on all the tires for your cars, pickups, SUVs, boat trailers, camp trailers, horse trailers, whatever. They've got them all, many of which are on sale. Don't forget to the best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts and batteries. All of this at all 7 locations. Really great people that are service-oriented. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and my buddy Randy on Overland in Burley. Nobody better. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, the best. Wow, we're about ready to wrap it up for today. Tomorrow we've got Dan Perkins coming on the program from Florida, Dave Beagle from Indiana. We've got a Cassia County Fair and Rodeo call-in, and we're going to be talking to Megan Barth about the mess in Las Vegas. All of this and more on the program tomorrow, starting at 8:06, going to 11, and we urge you to have a blessed day. And remember this, the way things were are the way things ought to be, and the world needs more cowboys. God bless you. See you tomorrow morning at 8:06.